This is the Fascia Fix, with Nellen and Justin Kroll, exploring the body's most overlooked system to find healing from chronic pain and trauma. They're here to educate and empower you through fascia science, real stories, and self-healing tools. So, tune in, open your mind, and let's fix what's been broken.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today's episode is all about light and color. Now, color and light more specifically in myofascial release is of particular interest to us because our understanding, our best guess understanding as to how consciousness actually behaves in human beings based on the most recent research is that the water in our body, especially around the microtubules of the fascia, behaves as a liquid crystalline form of water. It's H3O2. It's a form of water that can carry an electric charge, and with it, light energy and vibrational wavelengths are actually communicated through the fascia.
Yes, and in our conversation in our very first episode with Dr. Carol Davis, she talked about how this light energy, photons, are always present in the body, even when we haven't had exposure to sunlight. And when we think about light, most of the time we think about white light, all of the colors in one. But we know that if you put white light through a prism, that you can split it up into all the different colors of the rainbow, the entire spectrum of color. And so this idea of this light energy that we have and it being comprised of all the colors is something that we're going to explore through healing today.
Absolutely. And photons of light, the small pieces of light that our body communicates with, it's actually in our system regardless of whether you've ever even had exposure to the sun before. There was an interesting study that was done where they took sweet potatoes and they grew them in the dark, and then they took the seeds and they planted those in the dark, and they did that again. So by the time you got to the second generation of these sweet potatoes, they'd never actually been exposed to any light, any natural light of any kind. And they actually, on looking at the cell structures, still found photons of light in that system.
So this is an interesting concept that we want to continue to explore today about the idea of the photons moving through the fascia and what happens to that light energy when we have a restriction in the fascia.
Mm-hmm. So when the body becomes restricted in the ground substance, the liquidy gel around the cell structures actually dehydrates. It's believed that it affects cellular communication. You have a harder time with the molecules of life actually passing through cell membranes, of cellular communication occurring because of that lack of flow through the fascia, that lack of light energy and vibration through the fascia, which means that communication from your body to an affected area may not necessarily get there. And similarly, the wounds, the trauma, the fear, the danger that exists in that area may be trapped within that space too, since it can't necessarily make its way out either.
So it touches on this idea of like stagnant energy that sometimes you hear people talking about, and it isn't just this sort of like woo-woo thing out there. It is represented by the photons, the light energy in the fascia, and the colors that make up that light can also interestingly be associated with the injury or the trauma or the experience that you had. And our guest today is going to share a little bit more about how that all works. So let's talk a little bit about who we have on the show today.
Yes, today our guest is Julie Schindler. She created the Feargiveness Frequency. It's a combination of the words fear and forgiveness. This healing modality is something that she discovered after a tragic accident at her workplace that led to a near-death experience.
As the founder of the Feargiveness Frequency, Julie helps transform trauma into treasure through self-forgiveness, color, energy, and soul healing.
Welcome, Julie. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Let's get right into it because I know that our listeners will be interested. Julie, you're on an incredible healing journey that brought you to discover your healing method, which was born from the best way to describe it would be kind of a near-death experience, and then that subsequent health crisis that came up after the fact. Can you take us back to what was happening in your life at that time that brought you to that discovery, that understanding of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to the very beginning, a box fell on my head almost 13 years ago, and it crushed my cervical spine. And after I had reconstructive surgery, I was left with these small holes and tears along the entire spinal column. And that leaks out your CFS fluid. So your cerebral fluid is flowing out, and that would drain out every single day for 3 to 4 hours a day. And there was these moments of the deterioration was happening so quickly, and the doctors were just preparing us for the worst. We had had a heart attack, and that put us onto palliative care and end of life care. And so the family, everyone was just focusing on, enjoying every day together. But it was in between all the drugs and the pain meds that I would have to be on to pretty much stay sedated. And I started to save pain for my family. And I started to write my eulogy and plan for the worst. And it was in that eulogy that I received this bright blue pop of color. And it came to me and it said, "Tell them now." And as I looked down at the eulogy, it was all gratitude. It was gratitude for everyone who had been in our lives up until that point. We were 8 years in. We had been fighting this whole entire time. It was super, super dark. My children were 10 and 14 when the injury happened. So they were in their teens, graduating high school. And it was just this, I thought I wouldn't be there to see my daughter graduate. And when this pop of color came in and it said, "Just tell them now," I took that eulogy, and didn't have social media at the time, but I opened up a Facebook account and I put it out there to all my friends and family and said, "Thank you. Thank you for everyone who showed up for me." And it just was this beautiful gratitude. And that came through it, gratitude, elevated truth. And then a few months later, I was sitting in a doctor's office, and the doctors were telling us that I would need a feeding tube. And that was my biggest fear, of losing my voice and not being able to tell my story. And, and life was getting better after that pop of color. And I received another pop of color in that doctor's office that said, "This time will be different." And there wasn't a way off palliative care, but it was a do or die trying. And so we followed these pops of color that led us to face our fears. And it was really facing our fears in a way that we rose above them. And that's where Feargiveness came in, is I had to face my fears, and it came through these pops of color. And then when it told me about this feeding tube, it was, well, drink in the rainbow. So I started blending up every color I could get in, and I still drink 80% of my meals through a straw. But it was those moments of filling my body internally with this beautiful color and light that I started to heal. And it's the miracles just continue to keep stacking upon each other as you tap into this frequency that is self-love, self-forgiveness, and gratitude. That's really in lots of color. That is what Feargiveness Frequency has become over the last 5 years. And I'm still here. And now within a year or so, I've been completely off of all of my pain meds. In a few years later, I was able to get off all of my forever meds that doctors said I would be on forever. And now I color pain by using the frequencies that each color has and the vibrations that each color has to help you heal. And who knew color was the way out?
That's incredible. I'm really curious, when that first pop of color came, did you understand the gravity of it at that time? Like, were you able to sort of take it as that feedback that you were looking for? Or was it just kind of like, well, that was weird, I don't know what that was about?
Yeah, it was more that was weird. About 6 months prior to that, my father-in-law had passed away. And when he passed away, he just never left me. Like, for some reason, I thought it was because I was close to the other side, that I was next to go, that I was able to have these conversations with him. And he died suddenly. And so we were able to use that information he was giving me to help the family, and everyone thought I was going crazy. And I did too. And so when this pop of color came just a few months later, I had already had kind of this, my toes dipped into the ability to speak and have conversations that were out of this world in a sense. And so when the pop of color came through, it was like, what else do I have to lose? And it was so, it was a hug. And that's where these acronyms come in for this journey. It's healing that's universally guided. And this pop of color really wrapped me in a hug and just said, tell them now. And it became my first get, which is gratitude elevates truth. And that's when I just knew. And in months that followed, my inner child came through, and we would write out everything that was in it. We call it a trash can of traumas and insecurities. And everything that's ever happened to us is inside this trash can. And so my inner child was starting to write out everything that was in the trash can. And these were like Pandora boxes, closets that had never been opened before. But it was in those moments that every time we would write it, I would feel it in my body somewhere. And I knew where it was being held. And it was this journey of sharing, putting it out there. And we just put it out public on Facebook, and it didn't matter. We didn't care who was in that story. The inner child just needed to get it out. And that's where the healing really started to begin, is releasing it from the body. You could see that not all pain is physical, that it is definitely emotional. And then we just kept following color.
That's incredible. So when you felt the emotions come through, that is when you would see the colors?
Yeah, usually it would be the color first. So I would see a crimson. In the very first story, I remember that she told, it was crimson red. And I knew exactly, you could feel it in the body. And then I would go to that crimson red in wherever it was in the body, and I would learn more about it. It would be stories that my inner child would tell. It would be the moments that we climbed inside our trash can of traumas and insecurities, that we colored on the walls on the inside with poetry and music and pictures and art that I don't remember because of the trauma that she endured. We lost that innocence during that time, but it was still in there, and we got to be able to find it through those moments. And once you release it and you find it, you can change the color, because you get to change the narrative. You get to change who was there. You could see that you weren't alone, that you had brothers and sisters, or your family showed up for you during that time. And your inner child brings that through. It's not all about the dark. There is so much color that they want to, help you to re-see again when you have the opportunity to really heal it. And that crimson red changed, and it has completely transformed our story together.
So just speaking on the crimson red color, because I know some of our listeners might be sitting there with pen and paper. Okay, crimson red means, does it have to mean something in particular? Are there any rules to what the colors mean?
So what I found is that if it's easiest to kind of show you, if you just kind of take a deep breath in and you just breathe into your heart, and you think about, just allow yourself to soften just into that breath, breathing it into the heart and just letting it go. And you're bringing yourself into that center, that center point. And the easiest way to describe it is, think about a self-love act that you gave yourself recently. Think about what that act was. And now, what is the first color you see?
For me, it's
So as you
orangey red.
Okay, so as you gather that color of that self-love, so now let's go into gratitude. Think about something that you're really grateful for. Now color it. It's that first color that pops up. And that changes. And then you have the gratitude in that color. Every color holds a frequency and vibration. So does that emotion. And then if you think about self-forgiveness, think of something in your life that you want to forgive yourself for. And maybe it's the time you've held on to it. And then you color that. So it's usually the thought or the emotion or the color. So it works both ways. When you're working on color within the body, so if you take that deep breath in and you just scan through your body and you seek out discomfort. Let's say that discomfort's in your shoulder. And you think, you find the discomfort, what's the first color that comes to you? It's that color is your guide, because that color that shows up, if it's in your shoulder, and let's say it's red, let's say it's that crimson red. Well, there's a connection to whatever that pain is being held in your shoulder. It usually follows your chakra system. So if you have a shoulder pain, we're going to go down to the root and down to the root chakra. And we're actually going to send energy to the root chakra, and it will release the shoulder chakra usually. And when you have a color and you're in a trauma, the color changes based on you telling your story, getting it out of you. So the color will guide you to, well, what happened to your shoulder? And you can ask, like your fascia system. I feel our fascia speaks in frequency. Our fascia speaks in color, but our body keeps score. So the body keeps score, and the muscle memory, the cellular memory, the tissues, the fascia, all of that is holding that story. The best way to do is the color helps us find it, and then we get to tell the story. And as we tell the story, the colors start to change a little bit, and the narrative starts to change, and then you can find gratitude in those darkest moments, and that changes the color. So by the end of it, well, what color do you feel now when you think about this story? And you'll see the color change. And you can use that color that you changed it to, and you use that throughout the week. So you wear that color, you meditate on it, you sip it in if you can, you surround yourself with it, or you just look for it wherever you go. And it's kind of like your birth color. You'll start to see it everywhere now that you know what it is. And that's how healing in color it really expands your ability to heal, and it takes less time. It's not the weeks and months, it's minutes and moments, and then you get to release it and let it go.
Wow. Can you review for us, Julie, what those colors are and where we would find them in the body?
Yeah, and what's a chakra? Really quickly.
So a chakra is the energy centers within our body, and there is 7 of them that we know that are normal, the normal ones that we know, and then there's expanded chakras. But we were going to focus on just the 7. So you think about that rainbow is the same as your chakras. So you start in your root chakra down at the base of your spine, and that is red. And that helps you with your activities, action. It also holds your rooted family energy. It helps you to ground. It has your Mother Earth energies in it. And then as you move up from there, from the red, you move into the sacral chakra, which is about 2 inches below the belly button. And that is your orange center. And that's your creativity. This is also your emotion center. This is also your sexual center. All of that energy is all within your sacral chakra. So this is where a lot of art and creativeness, color comes from. And then as you move up, you're going to be in your solar plex, which is above the belly button, below the rib cage. And that is yellow. And that chakra is your personal power. This brings forth your confidence. This brings forth it's really a lot of inspired action comes from this. It moves you forward. And then you move into the heart space, which is emerald green. And this heart chamber allows you to really, it has the compassion, the self-forgiveness, the healing comes in here. When you move up a little bit higher is the higher heart, which is a fuchsia pink. And this is a chakra that's recently been kind of explored over the last couple of years. But that one brings you into then your throat chakra, which governs your voice. It governs truth. It governs listening. That is it's a sky blue color. And then as you move up into the third eye, which is right between on your forehead, between your eyebrows, that is an indigo color. And that it's your intuition. This is where you have expanded knowledge or knowing comes through your intuitive channel. Then you move up to the violet, which is the crown chakra, and this governs the top of the head. So the crown chakra is your awareness, it's spiritual expansion. It kind of takes you a lot of different places when you're up there in the higher chakras, but each chakra also has a frequency. In addition to the frequency, the color gives it. Each chakra has a sound, so a sound chamber, different ways to connect with it there. So these are energy centers that are in your body that you can connect to that work directly with the fascia and your nervous system to help you clear any blockages in that. So you could use it by energy, or you can connect with these just by color alone. So today, if you are wearing a red shirt, you are connecting with your root chakra. If you're wearing a blue shirt today, you're connecting with your throat chakra or your third eye. If you happen to have on green, you are bringing in the frequencies without you even knowing of the healing of the heart and the compassion and self-forgiveness. It's very beautiful that it's happening with or without your knowledge, based on what colors you choose.
Yeah, that is really
Amazing.
cool.
And thank you for running through those with us quickly. Earlier, before the break, you said one of our favorite words. You said fascia. You were talking about this understanding of the colors in their connection to the physicality of the body. Now, this is something that from our previous conversation before our interview, I understand that you sort of happened onto along your journey. Can you tell us sort of how you discovered fascia in your journey and the connection you see between fascial health and the color frequencies that you work with?
Yeah. So it came through, and our body keeps score. So one of the, it's a jam session. It's how you work through when you're working through a trauma. So there's journaling, affirmations, mirror work, music, muscle movement. So within muscle movement, I do it horizontally on a pillow. I dance on my pillow. I move the body. And when I was asked to connect with the fascia system, that's where I was really shown that no matter what you do and no matter how much you move, if you're not setting the intention to fully connect with your fascia system, then you are kind of not derailing, but you're making it last. It's taking a little bit more time to work through something. So when I found the fascia system, it was just within the last, I'm going to say 10 months or so. November maybe of last year is when the energy of it came through, and I saw this web that was weaved through our body, and I saw it in color, and I saw that that the color that I'm working with, or if you use the whole rainbow, it's running through the body. And I was asked to start with the feet up, the hands in, and the neck down. And one day I would just stretch my feet and have them go every different direction that they could. And then I would do my hands, and I was asked to do that first before I could work on that, follow the color and the trauma within the body. And that's where I started to understand that it wasn't just about the nervous system, and it wasn't just about that the muscles, muscles store memory or cells store memory. It was actually an entire network. And I call it the weave of wonder, because there's so much in it and you can explore it forever. But that's when I started to realize that the tightness that my physical body was holding was not just from my injury or just from the trauma. It was a whole weave of web of wonderment that I needed to explore. And that's what we've been doing every morning. We do a lymphatic draining and a fascia release. And it wasn't until going through the course, that your guys' course, that I was able to actually put the science behind it and understand. I was doing this for months, but I didn't know why. I was just, guided to. And then I realized that there was a whole bunch of science that came behind it. And then my whole world kind of opened up a little bit more.
Thank you so much for sharing that. One of the things I love most about teaching people to work with fascia is exactly that. It is intuitive. There's not really a wrong way to do it, so long as you're really listening. And I love that your practice of finding the colors and the frequencies, it goes hand in hand with that, because once you can start connecting to your body like that and finding the frequency, finding the color, feeling into where things are, when you see your body as a web, you can connect everything. So that's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, I speak to clients all the time about the idea that your first language when you are born is sensation, emotion, pictures, and visuals. You haven't learned words yet, right? You hear the words, but it's just noise, right? It's your exploration of the world. So it's this idea that, you didn't have to learn how to move your fascia. You had to relearn, reconnect, right? It was a skill you always had. It's just coming back to it.
I think one of the biggest skill sets that I learned from the going through the course was, and I felt like I did it anyways, but there's more of an intention now behind it. And you guys spoke of intention. Setting the intention is bigger than anything when you're working with your fascia. And it was the slow movements. And it was, you had shown where you're just moving your body and you see where you feel tension, and then you lean into that. And it was the leaning in for longer periods of time. It wasn't just like, oh, there's tension. No, you found it. How can I move my body, use what I have to support me through it? And really you're adjusting and you're just stretching that fascia. And once you stretch it from the shoulder, I find that you have the feet will have to, you release it in the feet or the hands. So it's a constant, it's all connected. So once you do one, you do the other. But I thought that slow movement, and it was easy to adapt for someone who, like me, who lives horizontally. I could do that laying horizontally on my pillow. And for anyone who, is bedbound or has, inabilities to move fully, that this was a great way you could still accomplish it from a horizontal position and receive the results.
You're right. Yeah, I think it's accessible to anyone, truly. And you're a perfect example of that. I want to get into a little bit more about your Feargiveness method. I think it's really interesting how you sort of blend fear and forgiveness, because you wouldn't necessarily, most people, I guess, wouldn't necessarily put those two things together. So what does that process look like in practice?
Yeah, so the Feargiveness frequency. So if you think about, this is all of our fears. Ultimately, this journey is it's only about you. This is about self-forgiveness of you. So when you have your trash can of traumas and insecurities, think about everything that's ever happened to you that you didn't know how to heal. When you dump it out and you bring it into the light to see if it still holds the same amount of pain that it did before, this is where you get to hug it, and you get to take that trauma or insecurity, that shame and blame. And this is where self-love, self-forgiveness, and gratitude comes in. And so we take that energy, that whatever that is, and we journal it out. We get everything out of your body. It's called a bee jamming session. And it started jam sessions for years. And then the bee jamming came when there was breath work was added and grounding was added. But you start with your breath and you really just breathe into that center. And that's how you activate your Feargiveness frequency. It's not about your subconscious mind. It's about your heart coherence. You breathe that into your heart. You start bee jamming session by journaling it all out. Once you have it journaled out, you color it. If the color came to you before you or after, you usually have a good sense of what that color is. And that gives you a good idea of where you're going to start. Then you pull out everything that you affirm, everything that I am from that trauma or insecurity or shame and blame. And then it moves on to mirror work. You sit in front of the mirror and you have a conversation with yourself or your younger self, your inner child, and you reparent them. You say all the things they needed to hear at the time that trauma or insecurity showed up in their lives, that trigger. Whatever, if you're triggered throughout the week, that is, this is a great time to do it. And there's very specific, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's a few moments each day that you could really get through your whole trash can in just a few months, based on however big your trash can might be. I had a whole bunch of them. I had my career one, I had my mommy one, I had my inner child. It was all there. But as you sit in the mirror and you have that conversation with yourself, that is when you're starting the healing process. You've got it all out, you've affirmed it, you've colored it. Now you're starting to heal it. And you use mirror work. You go into meditation. You can take that in and see if there's more of that story you need to receive from your higher self or from your God source, your inner child, to see if there's anything more you need to learn about it. This is where I find in meditation that you find more colors. This is where you find a lot of gratitude because you get to see it in a bird's eye view. It's a different view of looking at it versus the rawness that you had when you started to share it. But just by sharing it, you've shifted yourself. And then you move into the M&Ms. So you could choose one or all. There's the music, using music to move that energy through. Muscle movement, so dancing on your pillow or somatic movement, Reiki dancing. There's mindfulness. There is the M&Ms kind of go, there's a lot of different ways that you could do it. But as you start to choose whatever that modality is for you that day, then you move on to boomeranging. So once you've done it all, you've moved it through the muscle movement, you've released it stored from your body, then you get to celebrate yourself and you get to celebrate how far you've come and you let it all go. And once you let it all go, this is where the colors really start to change, that you're boomeranging it out there into the world, and then boomerangs come back to you, but it will come back to you in whatever form it is that's meant for you. Mm-hmm. It will no longer be in the pain that it was before. So when you tap into forgiveness and healing and forgiveness, you have so many different ways that you can look at it. Mondays, love red. Tuesdays, love orange. Wednesdays, love yellow. Thursdays, love green. Fridays, love blue. Saturdays, love dark or indigo blue. And Sundays, love violet. When you follow those colors of the week, you also helps you with your forgiveness. Mondays, you journal it all out, any traumas that came up from the weekend. You give yourself just that small amount of time, 15, 20 minutes. Tuesdays are trash can truths. You take everything you got from Monday's triggers, you bring them in, you do your jam session. Wednesdays, you move into weightless Wednesdays. So you're letting it all go. Thursdays is another trash can truth. Fridays is another day of release. So you're breaking it up so you're not sitting with this energy the whole time. And what's great about forgiveness, because you already have that time set aside, when you have that trigger over the weekend, it's not throwing you off. You know you have a designated spot on Monday that you are going to journal it out. And on Tuesday, you're going to work through it. And then by Wednesday, it's gone. And it can even work faster as you get connected, or as you learn your own process throughout it.
That's like the ultimate life hack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's in line with what we tell clients all the time, right? The best self-care is the self-care you do. So it doesn't necessarily matter which day of the week you're on. The point is that you've spent time on yourself to feel into what's there and lean into what your body needs. That's amazing. What you told us prior to the interview is that based on the day and month you were born, that you have a birth color for Feargiveness Frequency that you can work with to, you know what, you probably would say it better. What is the purpose of having a birth color?
Yeah, your birth color, actually, we all have the Feargiveness Frequency within us, which is multidimensional and high vibrational. So when you fill your Feargiveness Frequency with self-love, with gratitude, with self-forgiveness, you're building your frequency and you're building your vibration. And once you've ignited your birth color, or you've put in self-love or gratitude and built that frequency, it's there forever. And now you just keep adding to it. So when it comes to your unique birth color, this takes color, the vibrations and frequencies of it, astrology, your day of birth, and numerology. So it combines, it's kind of your colors written in the stars. So when we activate someone's Feargiveness Frequency, which is my purpose here on this earth, is to ignite color within the globally. And when you ignite your birth color, you bring that flame, that color into your heart. And that ignites you now have a base color and frequency for you to build upon. And even if you don't have your color yet, you can start with a rainbow prism. You can start with gold, or just bringing in white because it has all the colors and reflection. You could pick any color, but having your birth flame, it ignites you beyond. It's kind of a starry connection. You are connected above and below. And it's just a beautiful place to start building on your Feargiveness Frequency. So I'm curious to know, how did your colors resonate with you?
Well, my color was sea green, which is really interesting for me because I actually don't love the color green, generally speaking. I tend to avoid it for the most part. But I think that's really interesting because there's something there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I avoid it intentionally. There's something in there in terms of maybe like being in touch with certain parts of myself. But the description that went along with it, it said something along the lines of having ambition, but being okay with making mistakes in order to achieve the goals or find the greatness, I guess. And that was spot on. That was something that I was like, okay, well, the color didn't quite hit me right at first, but the description was exactly right. That's me to a T. And so that was really, really wild to see that, such a incredibly true statement that I resonated with just out of the day I was born.
And for myself, I had winter sky, which, I mean, the best way I can describe it is, it's, at least the way it shows up on my phone, sort of like a greenish gray, a little bit of a yellow hue to it, almost like if you're watching our video, the background in Julie's camera there. And the irony is, I've chosen this color before. Back before we opened our Myofascia Release Mississauga practice, and I was a sole proprietorship, I had a room in an old building, and I painted the walls 2 different shades. One of them was sort of like a brownish shade, and the other one was a color very similar to this. I can't tell you for certain if it was like right on, but I had actually picked them from the color palette of cicada, which is an insect that, you know, I feel I resonate with. I really love that buzz sound in the summertime. It's such a wonderful sound to me, but it felt warm and comfortable, and I love that color, which is wild because it ended up in my treatment space, and it turns out that that is the color that was picked for me too, based on my birthday.
It's actually almost the same color as we painted our son's bedroom as well.
That's true. Yeah, and then the sea green and the winter sky, well, they're not exactly the same hues of green. You meet them sort of in the middle, and you're around that same teal color that our business currently uses.
For the brand color, yeah, it's wild.
I was thinking, I saw the brand color earlier, and I was like, wait, that looks like we have a combination of both of your colors. And for Justin, it was hard to capture truly your color. in the best light. And even if you take your birth color and you just, because it's connected with the Pantone colors. So if you take that and just put it into any search engine, you can even learn more about your birth color and see it play out visually as well.
Mhm.
That's so cool. I'm really excited to look more into it. Your heart really shines through when you're speaking, and I really am enjoying this conversation. And one of the things that I admire most about you, after having learned about you a bit, is the work that you do through Speak Up, which is color charity work. And you help to empower the voices of children, which is incredible. So can you tell us a little bit about that mission to help children and how this work has impacted over 140 children in African villages?
Yeah, I would love to. Speak Up in Color, just it really came upon my pillow as a purpose when I started reading bedtime stories to a little girl named Florentina who is battling neuroblastoma cancer. We lived 5,000 miles away, and we had met during a speaking event that we were raising money for her cause. But she wasn't doing well. So her family had given us updates, and it didn't seem like she was going to make it through just even to our event. And it was just a divine guidance like, hey, can I read her a story? So I read her my favorite children's book story, which was Grover. There's a monster at the end of this book. And that story just talks about fear. It talks about different ways to address fear. And it was my kid's favorite story. So I read it to her, or I sent her a video, and the next day her family called and said that she was doing amazing. She started eating again, and she loved her story and asked if I could do it again. So that's where Speak Up in Color began, is teaching children how to color their own emotions. We started with gathering authors from around the world that would come every Tuesday and Thursday through her entire first year of treatment, that would show up and read their stories that they wrote. And then we would read, it's the CEL, the Social Emotional Learning. It's by Diane Alber. And there's a whole series about coloring your emotions, for little spot of emotions for children. So Florentina started, as we started teaching her color, she started talking to her doctors, and she was super shy before, but her parents said that she just lit up. She felt so confident. And we were looking for a way to Florentina to give back. And that's when we met the children of Silicho. And Florentina was entering her first year of treatment. She was doing really, really well. And so we're pausing our story times, and we wanted to find a way to give back. When we met the children of Silicho, the director of the orphanage was only 28 years old. She had had this orphanage for 10 years. Wow. She started when she was 18. She's now 30. And now she has 100 children in one home and 40 children in another that she oversees. And these were children that she had been on the streets with. Learning about the children, they never knew color. They had no connection to color. So we started our story times with them, doing energy work, whether it was clapping or laughing, singing, doing sounds, just oohs and ahs, bringing that energy to help them start to move through, in addition to color. In just a few short months, they started showing up every Saturday with color. And everyone would stand up and we would do a rainbow with them. Mm-hmm. And that really led us on this journey to give back. And we had raised enough money during that first year to buy land for them to build a forever home on. And that's where this journey has continued to grow, is that the land is purchased. Now it's just raising the funds to build out the forever home. And Speak Up in Color is taking on building the school of color for the children. Our children walk an hour to school every morning. They're at school for 6 to 8 hours, and then they walk an hour home. During that time, they are unprotected. There are a few older children that walk with them, but there's a lot of things that have happened to them during that time. So we want to create them a secure space to do that, that they don't have to leave and walk so far and have more of their youth back. For the children of Zambia and a lot of children in Africa, their only way out of poverty is through their education and making sure that they can get to school. The school, you have to have a certain amount of, the kids have to have uniforms and backpacks and school books to even attend. So Speak Up in Color has been able to provide that to them over the last few years. We've seen them go in and out of 5 different homes, because homing 100 children in a 2-bedroom house, they're on the floor side by side, no pillows, no blankets. They use their clothes. The older children that have a lot more learning to do, there's a few beds that they've had that we've purchased over the years. But our goal is, and we're so close, we've just received ability to put water on the land. So once we raise the money for that, we can have water, and then we can, we're building out the foundation, which is $1 a block. So a lot of different fundraising things are going on. And that's why for Feargiveness and our website, 80 and Sunny, our healing, 80andsunny.com is our healing center. Every service provided within the center goes directly, 100% goes to the children. We even cover, Speak Up in Color covers the overhead fees, anything the GoFundMe takes, or any transfer money fees, all of that is covered. So 100% of the donations go directly to the children. And we're helping them color in hope. When I met them, it was hope was hold on, pain ends. And now they get to use hope for opportunity and productivity and energy. There's so many different new ways that they see hope. And my change of hope, of coloring hope, is now I can help one person every day.
That's amazing. And it's so important. Anybody listening who wants to support, can you please spell out the website? Make sure it's really clear.
Yeah, it's 80, the number, N, the letter, and Sunny, 80nsunny.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
So as we kind of start to wrap up here, what would be one key message that you want our listeners to take away from their relationship with color, their own bodies, with healing, and it's your body's ability to restore itself?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is that your body keeps score. So having that connection with your fascia system, and I feel like the medical world will be changing over the next few years to co-create with energy work, color, and all of the healing modalities that are out there. So if you are looking for ways to heal holistically, and you're doing your myofascia releases, and you're connecting with all the beautiful services that are out there, bringing in color is just another level and vibration that you can try. And who knew? Maybe color is the key in the bridge that connects us all. And you have it surrounding around you. So whether you're wearing color, just find ways to connect with it. And if you want to learn about your own birth flame, you can connect with 80andsunny.com. Join our email list, and we will send you your first email. We'll invite you to learn your birth color, and all of that's free, which is great. And it can start you on your journey if you'd like to do that. But I think that if I could tell you to do anything right now today, would be to drink water. Drink lots of water, because your fascia needs it. Your fascia speaks in frequency. And if you want to connect more with it, not only in your movements, but it's also sound, music that you listen to, frequency music. You're drinking that water, grounding yourself. One of the biggest things that I learned in chronic pain is that your body can't hold inflammation in a body that's energetically grounded. So instead of waking up at a 6 if you're looking at your pain scale, going outside and grounding for 10 minutes, standing barefoot on the ground, you can take your pain from a 6 to a 2 in just that short amount of time of connecting with your bare feet on the ground. If you want more brownie points, do it at sunrise and sunset, because you get extra energy there. But I think if those are the biggest thing, is find ways to connect with color. Drink water consistently. Water, it takes, scientifically proven, it takes 11 minutes for water from the very first sip to run through your body or your organ system. So drinking 11 sips of water, gives you 11 minutes, and within 11 minutes, you've flowed that energy, emotion through you. And then just continue to be open to expand your world when it comes to energy and forgiveness.
Love that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And, from your lips, when it comes to the future of healthcare, I hope that that's true and that we see it very soon as well.
I agree. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to The Fascia Fix with Nellen and Justin Krull. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, DM us at Myofascial Canada on Instagram or TikTok. Thanks for listening.